Hello everybody, Raven Knight here. It's safe to say that I am a big One Piece fan. I've been an avid follower of the series for a very long time. I've watched and rewatched the anime, even if for just background noise while I work on projects or writing. It's probably my favorite anime out there. In fact, I'd go so far as to say it's definitely my favorite anime out there. And I consider Ichiro Oda, the series creator, a genius of character writing and comedy. I intend to make a video sometime in the near future about just why this series is so important to me and just how much it's impacted me. When I make it, I'll be releasing it on my other channel, which I'll leave a link in the description. If you don't know, I have a second channel which I dedicate to writing and storytelling. Go check it out. It's pretty cool and it's still growing. But back to the One Piece thing. When I heard Netflix was doing a live-action adaptation of One Piece, I cringed. I seriously felt nothing but terror at the thought of them doing it. A part of me hoped and prayed that it was all a joke and that it wouldn't happen, because not just Netflix, but any time Western studios try to adapt an anime into a live-action medium, be it with Death Note or Cowboy Bebop or what have you, they usually don't do well. Now, part of that's not entirely Netflix's fault or Western Studios' fault. It's just very difficult to adapt a anime, a genre which is meant for cartoon, and make it into live action. And the other side is, quite often, they try to insert Western ideologues and politics and writing styles into where it doesn't belong, but that's for another video entirely. Like I said, I didn't want it to happen, but now the trailer is out. I'll admit that in my first viewing of the trailer, I tried my hardest to be positive and fair and open-minded. I really tried not to be too critical. I didn't want to be hateful. I tried to give as much leeway as I could, because hey, as someone who knows One Piece well, I know that there's no earthly way you could capture everything about One Piece in a live-action setup, so I was trying to be as open as I could. But after several more viewings and looking at it with a more critical lens and thinking about it more, nah, I hate it. I do. I think it misses One Piece by a mile, but don't take my word for it. Let's actually watch it together and we'll break it down. Now, a couple of you out there, probably a lot of you out there, know nothing about One Piece, but you just like to hear me rant. Well, if you want to hear me rant, you're in the right place to do it. But I do highly recommend actually at least reading the One Piece manga, or at least watching the Romance Dawn arc of One Piece, because that's what this whole series that Netflix is doing is going to be about. It's going to be about the Romance Dawn, where Luffy gets his pirate crew started before he gets to the Grand Line. Alright, so let's watch the trailer together and see what they make.
Ever since I was a kid, the sea's been calling. So, I'm setting out to follow my dreams. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
Okay, so already we have a few problems to go over. First, let's talk about the sets. In this opening, we get a good look at the Going Merry, the first ship of the Straw Hats. We get a look at Shell's Town, which is a marine base where Luffy meets Zorro. And we get a look at the Baratier, the sea restaurant where Luffy meets Sanji. Now, from a distance, these sets look pretty okay. Obviously, a little bit of CG is done here, but they look alright. They look vibrant, colorful, almost like they could be real. But wait until we actually get closer to these sets, where we actually see the actors walking around and doing stuff in them. You'll see what I mean. You'll see why. The second problem is Luffy himself. Now, okay, some of you might be looking at this, and if you know anything about Luffy, you're probably thinking, this guy sounds and looks a little not Luffy. Now, here's the deal. According to the research I've done, the casting director was trying to cast people who matched a certain criteria. And it didn't come from nowhere. In a question about the Straw Hat Pirates, Oda was asked if the Straw Hat Pirates were in the real world, if the story of One Piece was in the real world, where did Oda feel the Straw Hat Pirates would come from? And Oda said that he thought Luffy would be from Brazil, Zorro would be from Japan, Nami would be from Sweden, Sanji would be from France, Usopp would be from Africa, Chopper would be from Canada, Robin would be from Russia, Frankie would be from America, and Brooke would be from Austria. So the creators wanted to mimic that here by making Luffy look and sound Brazilian. Now, I don't think that was the right way to go, but I'll let it slide. I guess it doesn't bother me too terribly who plays Luffy as long as they play him well. But the actor here only barely acts like Luffy would. He isn't super expressive. He's not loud and bombastic. and some of his moves seem more mystified than excited. Like, for example, let me give you an example. Okay, Luffy was a very highly excitable person. He would get so distracted by new things, he'd temporarily forget about more important matters, like his sick crewmate.
All right, it's snow. A snow island.
Whoa. Luffy, wait. Just so there's no misunderstanding between us. We're stopping to find Nami a doctor. We're not here to have an adventure.
I love snow. It's so white.
It's no use, he's gone.
Even in very serious moments, Luffy had a tendency to overreact to things. Like, for example, take this moment in the trailer where we see Luffy seeing the Mary. See how Luffy is kind of carefully reaching out to it in a very emotional and resonant way, almost like he's paying respect to it? Now, for us fans, we know how important the Going Merry is and what the ship will mean to us later. No spoilers here. But here, this is not how Luffy would react. Let's compare this bit in the trailer to how Luffy reacted in the anime to Sing the Merry.
A real caravel! Are you actually giving this to us? What a cool ship! Have you guys seen the front? It's totally awesome!
You see the difference? Luffy was like a kid opening his present on Christmas, just so excited, so impressed, wide-eyed, open-mouthed, just so pumped to get this ship. In this, Luffy's almost reverent to it, which is fine as a fan being reverent to the ship, but for Luffy, no, he doesn't know in context what this ship means yet. And then finally, there's the tone. There's a tone problem here. Yes, One Piece does have serious moments, very large, impactful, and serious scenes. But this is the Romance Dawn arc. This is when Luffy is gathering his crew. We haven't gotten to these heavy moments yet. The only truly serious moments in this arc would be Luffy losing his temper over Buggy damaging his hat, Kuro hurting his own crewmates, and Luffy going to confront Arlong for making Nami cry. But right now, declaring his dreams and finding new places, that's not the serious moment we need yet. We're not ready for that serious awe moment, you know? The reason, though, is obvious. The reason they're doing Luffy like this is very obvious. It's all fan service. They know fans of One Piece have a great deal of reverence for these scenes and places, and they want to portray them in grandiose ways that will make us super excited and in awe of the sets. We all know what Baratie is, so they want to show it in this big, awesome way to make us go, oh, look, it's Baratie. We know how important the Going Merry is, so they want to show it like, oh, look at that. The way he's touching the Going Merry. Oh, it's such a wonderful ship. It means so much to me. But it doesn't fit well. And it's fine and all if you want to show reverence, but the characters' reactions will be less than desirable. Because we admire these moments in One Piece, we want to see the characters react the way they should. But I've gone on that enough. Let's move on to the next part.
All I need is a loyal crew. And I think together we'd make a pretty good team.
Okay, more to talk about here. That's Zorro. Now, it's time to address the real problem with anime live-action adaptations. The problem that no studio can truly fix. In most cases, it's a losing battle. See, anime characters tend to have very unrealistic features. Hair colors that are unnatural, attributes that don't mash well, different body proportions, overly emphasized large eyes. If you make the characters look realistic, fans will complain that they don't look right. They don't look like they do in the anime. You'll say, well, this character actually had pink hair in the actual anime and their eyes are super big and expressive. They look too real. But if they try too hard to make the characters look like they're supposed to, like Zorro here, we'll realize that none of this is real. That's the case here. Yes, Zorro has green hair in the anime, but seeing it here on this guy just reminds me that none of this is real. It's like, hey, look at that. They painted that guy's hair green. That's not Zorro, you know? I know that sounds mean. It's like, well, then it's a losing battle. You'll never be satisfied. Yeah, probably shouldn't do it, you know? I don't think you need to make anime in a live-action context. It doesn't work as well. We're talking about a very cartoony medium. One Piece is incredibly cartoony. It's also sometimes called the Looney Tunes of anime. Would you try to make Bugs Bunny live action? Don't look at Space Jam. Do not look at Space Jam. That's not a good example. And the sets too. Okay, the sets too. Remember how I said that when looking at the sets from afar, from a distance, they looked good? Well, now that we're really on the set, you see kind of how fake it looks like, how unreal it all looks. It looks like a bunch of props were set up behind them. It looks like a stage performance. Oh, man. Now, as for the line, we can make a pretty good team. I guess something still doesn't feel right about the delivery. It almost sounds like he's trying to convince Zorro that it'd be a good idea to join him. Like, hey man, you want to join me? It'd be a pretty good idea. That's not how Luffy approaches getting people to join him. Luffy already decided it was going to happen from the moment he met Zorro. He just made that choice.
Yeah, that's great. But I've already decided that you're going to be on my crew.
What? You can't do that!
He kind of even blackmailed Zorro by recovering his swords for him.
Take them already! Just know that if you fight with me now, you'll be a government-defying villain, so it's either that, or you're left out here and killed by the Marines execution style.
What are you, the son of the devil?
I again think they're going for more of a serious and hopeful direction rather than the goofy and over-the-top direction, which I guess is a choice, but it's not quite accurate. And some people are going to say, well, they can take some creative liberties. Yes, I suppose they can, but you can't be surprised, therefore, when diehard fans of the series like me are going to point out the problems.
We're heading up to the Grand Line.
A treacherous stretch of ocean with bigger islands and bigger pirates.
Alright, there's a fair bit to talk about here. That's Nami. Okay, Nami does have ginger hair, but did you have to give your actor a wig? I mean, come on guys, that looks like a wig. You couldn't bring in a ginger-haired actor to play this role? I don't mind if it's not exactly as orange as Nami's hair. I mean, Luffy's skin color isn't exactly like Luffy's, so, I mean, come on, you know? It doesn't look right. And, again, the delivery. Nami just looks incredibly disinterested in this role. In the original, Nami, even before joining Luffy, was wide-eyed, energetic, and spunky.
I'm a talented thief who steals strictly from pirates. The name's Nami. Hey, wanna team up with me?
Thanks anyway, lady, but I think I'll pass.
Hold on! At least think about it first.
This girl looks like she's trying to do a poor man's Han Solo and failing at it. Emote, woman! Give us some emotion, give us some response here. You sound so bored. Okay, now, the sword fight, it's okay. Don't entirely know what's happening, but it looks cool. We see the giant Sea King that attacked Shanks, and yeah, it's clearly CG. We knew it would be. They're going to have a lot of CG in this cartoony performance. That's followed by a scene of what looks like Alvida's pirate ship, which begs a question. We never see Alvida in this trailer. Alvida is described by Luffy as...
Yeah, there was this fantastically fat pirate lady. I think her name was Alvida.
In this age of fat acceptance, will they have the nerve to make Alvida look true to her character? I doubt it. And we also see Captain Buggy, who, okay, I'll be fair, that's kind of a good look for what I'd expect from Buggy. Although his laugh is a little weird. Buggy didn't have this creepy horror movie clown kind of laugh. His laugh was more, But then again, I can't expect you to get everything right on that. So let's move on,
Careful with that.
I don't work for you.
I'm sensing a little bit of tension amongst the crew.
Not a crew.
Alright, and it is here, at this point, that I had a problem from the very beginning. Like, I noticed this the first time I saw the trailer, and I want to talk about this. And you're probably going to say, oh my gosh, Raven, you are so nitpicky. And yeah, you can say that if you want, but this is important. This short piece of dialogue shows a distinct misunderstanding of the crew and their early relationship. I want to break this scene down EFAP style, and I know Mahler and Rags aren't here, but let me take a shot at this. First,
Careful with that.
Nami tells Zorro to be careful unloading a chest on the ship. This isn't a problem in and of itself. Nami was often a bit bossy and usually unleashed her passionate bossiness on Zorro, leading to a humorous rivalry between the two. As the two characters closest to being Luffy's vice captains, they know Luffy probably better than anyone else on the crew, and thus often take the lead whenever Luffy can't. So it only makes sense that the two sometimes butt heads, so this part is okay. But then...
I don't work for you.
This line doesn't match Zorro. It feels detached and disinterested. Zorro was always someone who kind of rose to Nami's bait. See, here's the problem. Both Nami and Zorro are being played very bored, very monotone, very low tone, like, right? That's not the way they were. Even Zorro and Nami, despite being a bit more serious than Luffy, had loud, goofy moments. Zorro would probably say something back to Nami along the lines of, yeah, or what? Or he might even get dismissive and say, it's fine, don't worry about it. You know, if you had to play the serious tone. But he wouldn't just go, I don't work for you. Like, that's so dismissive. It doesn't really work. Zorro kind of accepted that Luffy brought Nami onto the crew. When Luffy first introduces Nami, he just kind of accepts it. He doesn't go like, nah, I don't accept her. No, he doesn't do that until Nami steals the ship, which is a whole other thing. We won't get into that, but that's my first problem there.
I'm sensing a little bit of tension amongst the crew.
And this line doesn't fit Luffy. Look, fights and arguments happen frequently on the Mary, and Luffy never intervened, particularly between Sanji and Zorro. They fought like warring countries. But he found it all funny. He usually laughed at the crew's occasional spats or arguments because it was all a joke to him.
Listen, you good-for-nothing Playboy cook, you better get those fancy eyebrows out of my way in a hurry!
No, you listen, you dumb oaf! If you don't get your meathead off the field right now, I'm gonna fry it up!
Those two sure are funny, aren't they?
He knew there wasn't any real reason to worry because when it all came down to it, when the shit hit the fan, they were his crew and he could depend on them. He knew that they'd back each other up when the going got tough. He wouldn't stop them from being who they were. The only time it really got serious was when Usopp argued with Luffy about the fate of the Mary, but the context there was far more serious than this minor argument. He wouldn't try to carefully intervene like this. He'd probably just laugh and look away at the horizon, kind of like what Zorro does here.
Stop, I can't swim! That's the whole idea! If you want it, just go back and get it then! I can't do that! You go get it! No! It's dangerous! I could die, you know! I don't care! And if you do that again, I really will throw you in the ocean!
That reaction feels a bit more like what Luffy would do.
Not a crew.
And this line hurt me. This line hurt. When Zorro was saved by Luffy, he swore himself to Luffy's service on the spot, and he was loyal. He even called Luffy his captain immediately after the fight.
Thank you.
I'm just doing my job, Captain.
Zorro had no problem being on Luffy's crew and was glad for it. Nami, meanwhile? Okay, while it's true she didn't officially consider herself part of the crew until after Luffy saved her from Arlong, Nami still behaved like one of the crew. She still considered the welfare of the group as well as herself, and even acted like she was going to go to the Grand Line with them for a while.
There's absolutely no way we'll make it to the Grand Line in this condition. We don't have a crew, we don't have any equipment, or even a real ship for that matter. There is no way we'll ever make it like this.
She probably wouldn't have renounced Luffy's claim here. She might have. Okay, if any of the two did, it would be Nami, but really, she didn't act like it. There was never any point where she said, I'm not on your crew. After the Buggy incident, she joined up with them and even acted like she was willing to work with Luffy for a while. Only after remembering her duty to Arlong did she betray the crew and run away. Now, it's clear that this scene was done for comedy, but it betrays the actual characters in a large way. Now, some of you might argue, well, this is necessary. Live action can't get the same physical or slapstick comedy of the original well, so they have to change the comedic style. And to that, I wholeheartedly agree. Which, again, begs the question why we wanted to make a live action version in the first place. The answer is, no one wanted it, except for Netflix.
We haven't sailed together for very long, but I know we've got each other's backs.
Again, this doesn't feel like a Luffy line. Luffy wouldn't have had to verbalize this to anyone. Luffy was the kind of person that believed that even by just wanting you on the crew, you were already a member. He trusted Nami so much, even after her betrayal, he lost his temper at the mere implication that she would kill Usopp. He wouldn't ever have to rationalize, I know we haven't sailed for long, but I know we've got each other's backs. He wouldn't verbalize that. He just knows it. And it's shown through the way the characters act. It's something he doesn't have to say, because to him, people should recognize it just by looking at them. Luffy seems to play far more serious and somber instead of loud, upbeat, and bombastic in this. But we do see a lot of other stuff here. We see Usopp, who, he looks fine, but why doesn't he have a long nose? That's kind of a key part of his character. He's often nicknamed Long Nose. I mean, wasn't that a part of who he was? Where's his long nose? Then we see Sanji. He looks fine. Nothing fundamentally wrong, I guess. But I'll be honest, everyone here looks like cosplayers. That's what it is. And I know people are going to say, well, that's what it is. They're actors. They're cosplayers, okay? If I'm being honest, they just look like cosplayers. And we get the iconic scene of the team heading to the Grand Line and declaring their dreams. And I'll give the actor playing Luffy credit here. He looks into it. More so than the others, at least.
Gamagon!
Wow. Wow. It just... Do I even need to explain how silly that looks? Oh, how bad the ship looks. How cheap the CGI looks. How just weird the scene feels. Just look at this. It looks so cheap. And that awful delivery line. What was that? Hell, the way he said gum gum pistol sounded shit. I feel like he wasn't sure if he wanted to say it in the original Japanese style or the English style and tried to do something together. Look, if you're going to say it in the Japanese style, it's Gamu Gamu no Pistole! Or if you're going to say it in English, it's Gum Gum Pistol! One of the two. What is Gumma Gum Pistol? I know I sound like I'm nitpicking, but the delivery was really weird. Now, I know. Raven, you're being too hard on this scene. I know. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit unrealistic and cartoony, Raven. I agree. Yes, I know. I feel that this would be much better in a cartoon. I think that happened. I think we have this as a cartoon. This scene looks so bad. I mean, someone justify this scene to me.
All great fighters call out their finishing moves.
No, they don't.
So the humor here is kind of self-aware. I mean, okay, it's a common trope in anime where attacks have very cool names and the warriors shout these names before attacking. You know, Kamehameha, Rasengan, Gum Gum Pistol, United States of Smash, Spirit Gun, etc. You don't see this as often with Western media. You never hear Batman call out Batarang or Superman call out Laser Vision. So I kind of get the self-referential humor, especially since Luffy and Zorro both have countless names for their mini attacks. Like, just in the Romance Dawn alone, just looking in the Romance Dawn, from the beginning of the anime all the way to when they're heading to the Grand Line, Luffy uses Gum Gum Pistol, Gum Gum Bazooka, Gum Gum Whip, Gum Gum Fingernet, Gum Gum Shield, Gum Gum Scythe, Gum Gum Gatling, Gum Gum Spear, Gum Gum Battle Axe, and Gum Gum Hammer. From Zorro we see Onigiri, Streaming Wolf Swords, Tiger Trap, 3000 Worlds, and Dragon Twister, or Tatsumaki if you prefer. These two like to name their attacks, even during the Romance Dawn, but it's Zorro's response that bothers me. Luffy saying something like that actually makes a bit more sense. I'll be honest, this is the first time he said a line that I'm like, yeah, that feels like a Luffy line. I feel like that might happen in a conversation like, why do you keep shouting Gum Gum everything? And then Luffy might actually respond, well, duh, all the best fighters name their moves. Don't you know that? Your moves would probably be cooler if you named them. That feels very much like a Luffy line. That feels like something Luffy would do. But Zorro just dismissing him? That feels wrong somehow. Zorro often humored Luffy's idiotic statements and sometimes even played off them.
Yep, we'll need a cook and maybe a musician to keep us entertained.
A musician?
Nope, but we'll have an enormous one before long. Just you wait and see.
And how's that?
Whoa, that's awesome! It can fly!
Something about it makes me feel kinda uneasy.
Well, for once I agree with you. Chickens don't even know how to fly. They should have made it a pigeon.
What's that got to do with anything, you dope?
Zorro would have probably said something more like, oh, is that right? Or where do you pick that up? You know, there are times where Zorro will just kind of play off of things that Luffy says. I feel like they're trying to make Zorro just super detached and uninterested in anything. In fact, I feel like they're doing that with Zorro and Nami, like I said before. And it's just not a good idea. And that's pretty much the trailer, guys. That's pretty much all the trailer. Let me just explain my overall problems here. First of all, the trailer didn't show a whole lot. Like, we saw a lot of short scenes, but it kept cutting away very fast, like cutting to the next scene, the next cool image. And I think that's the problem. It's showing us a lot of iconic images and a lot of iconic visuals because they know that they're appealing to the One Piece fan base. They're like, hey, you're fans of One Piece, right? Look at this. It's the Baratie. Look at that. That's Zorro. Look at that. That's the Gum Gum Pistol. Look at that. It's Shanks and the giant sea monster that bit off his arm. Like, don't you love all these things? Don't you recognize all these things? And yeah, I do. I really do. And I can tell that at least some of you probably love it too. Because looking at the way the guy plays Luffy, I don't see Luffy. You know what I see? I'll be honest. I see someone who loves One Piece getting to explore the One Piece world and react to it the way any fan would. With reverence. With awe. With passion. When he reaches out for the Going Merry, when he shyly asks Zorro to join his team, when he talks about finishing all of his moves with a catchphrase or a finishing move line. That sounds like someone who got isekai'd into their favorite anime and now has the chance to live as their favorite character. You know? Because they recognize all the cool, iconic stuff. They understand the meaning behind all of it, and they're in awe of it. Whereas the actual Luffy would just see the world as his big adventure. Not something to hold reverence for, but something to get passionate and excited about. That's the thing. One Piece is goofy, wild, and silly. Yes, there is a heart to it. Yes, there are some serious moments. Yes, there's an overall underlying story behind it all. But I didn't feel any of that. What this trailer showed me was a lot of fan service. Basically, look at all these images you recognize brought in a live action setting. And I go, yep, I recognize it, but that's a problem. Because I recognize it and because I know what to expect from it, I see the flaws. A lot of the sets look lazily designed. They look like literally stage props. The acting, particularly from Nami and Zorro, is terrible. Luffy does not really act the way Luffy should, and I know they're probably going to take some new directions, but don't be surprised when fans call it out. And the CG on his Gum Gum pistol, his most iconic attack, that was terrible. I don't have high hopes for this. I do think it's going to be bad. I don't believe that this will be good. I will watch the first episode just to see how they do it, but I don't have high hopes. If you are a fan of One Piece like myself, and you find something to like about this that I missed, let me know. I'd be happy to hear from you. If you think I'm just nitpicking and being a weeb or an otaku, okay, that's fair. You can feel that way if you like, but I had to give my piece on this because a lot of you know I'm a One Piece fan, and I'm sure y'all wanted to know my thoughts on it, so those are my thoughts. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll be releasing some new stuff pretty soon. Hopefully something about One Piece that gives it the credit it deserves. Alright guys, and I'll see you in my next video. Take care.